What's going on, guys, and welcome to today's video. And today we are finally going to be putting a harness or a 4-point harness in the 6th gen Camaro, my track car. If you guys are new to the channel and you haven't seen any content on this, this is my 2018 ZL1 1LE, which is kind of basically a dedicated track car and autocross car. And this thing actually comes with a kind of cool factory solution that uses the factory 3-point harness to help keep you in the seats a little bit better. It basically has a child lock on the front seat belt, so you can pull the seat belts out all the way and then ratchet them in, move the seat forward, and it does do a really good job of holding you in the seats. But as I've kind of found, as I have started driving the car harder, track daying more than not, that 3-point harness just does not provide enough support to keep you in the seats. I'm constantly got my knees smashed into the center console, into the door panels, and I'm more worried or more conscious thinking about keeping myself planted than I am on being able to actually drive. So I've wanted to do a harness in this thing for quite some time. I finally pulled the trigger, and I'm going to show you installing the harness, because they really don't make a harness for the 6th gen Camaro. So this is not for a Camaro, this is actually for a BMW E90. Now this is from SCHROTH Racing. I'm sure I pronounce that incorrectly every single time, but again, this is their Quick Fit Pro for the BMW E90. So this is not for the Camaro. It of course says anywhere and everywhere, don't put this in an application. That is not for what we're selling it for. So do this at your own risk. There is a whole bunch of information you can read online about seatbelt angle and all of that, but I guess I'm aware of that and wanting to move forward. Now, the other safe way would be adding a roll cage or adding a harness bar and having the mounting point for the shoulder harnesses basically at shoulder level. This system, though, does it a little bit differently. This is, again, the Quick Fit. This is supposed to be a removable or installable option for guys that are going to the track day, wanting a harness, but want to be able to remove it if you are daily driving the car. Now, I'm not really daily driving this, but I like the fact of how this thing mounts. So one side actually plugs into the factory seatbelt buckle. The other side has a little tab that's going to go down to the bolt for the seatbelt pre-tensioner, or basically the end of the seatbelt webbing. And then we go up and over the back seat to the rear seat, and we've got a buckle that's going to go into the factory second row or back seat buckle location, and then again the other one with a tab is going to bolt into the bolt for the seat belt retractor or the seat belt material. So I think we're going to start in the rear of this thing, get the rear all together, and then we'll move forward to the front and get that all installed. So this is going to be pretty darn easy since we don't have to install a harness bar or a roll cage or anything like that. But just keep in mind, this is not for a Camaro, so, you know, install this at your own risk, yada, yada, yada. You guys know the drill. So let's jump into the back of the car and get our seat bottom removed so we can get a belt bolted in here. Okay, guys, so jumping into the back seat here. Now, the seat bottom has no bolts or fasteners that bolt it into the car. There are 2 clips, and they are outrageously hard to get unclipped. What you're going to want to take is a medium-sized pry bar, and where those clips are located, they are kind of in the middle of the seat bottom, if that makes sense, right in the middle of the 2 seats. You can kind of get your hand underneath the seat, pull up a little bit, and you can kind of feel where that metal bracket is. You're then going to want to take that pry bar and go on the inside or inboard of that clip, and you're going to have to pry really aggressively. Obviously, I've already got that side popped loose, but you're going to need to take that pry bar on both sides and pry really, really hard to get that clip to pop up. Once that is done, you're going to be able to lift that seat up and kind of slide it forward to get it out of place. Now this is the location of those two clips that you can't see when the seat is installed. So you can see that one here basically right in the middle, and then the other one over there, obviously in the middle of that seat bottom. And I was able to slide that pry bar in next to that and then pry upward or downward, however you want to say, to get the seat bottom clip to release from that plastic tab. And again, here is the metal loop on the front of that rear seat bottom that we are trying to get clipped and out of place. Okay, so we are now looking into the rear seat bottom. We've got our seat belt buckle that one side of the harness is going to connect to, and here is the small piece that is going to bolt right here to that seat belt bolt. Now guys, that bolt is a T50 Torx. We're going to go ahead and pull that out. And now on the back side of that bolt is a small metal bolt retaining washer that looks like this. We're going to need to remove that since we are going to get ours. I'm planning on putting the bracket or the tab on the front side of this, so the factory seat belt is still in its normal location. We'll have this stacked on top. So normally with these, you're able to grab a pair of wire cutters and grab one of these tabs. And you may have to use a screwdriver or something to kind of get it started. So like I said, normally if you use a screwdriver and get just one of the little ears of that star washer lifted up enough, you can grab it with a pair of wire cutters and get it broken and pulled off. And now with that off, the bolt can be slid out of that bracket. You can actually get the bolt threaded through what you want to do. Now, these tabs have a spec basically for how many times you can bend them or how much angle you can put in them. So if we are wanting this in the factory location, we've got a plastic bracket that kind of hangs over. So we're going to want to bend this tab out a little bit so we have proper clearance. Now the easy way to bend these is grabbing two crescent wrenches or adjustable wrenches, and then you can slide the metal in, hold it with another one, and then be able to actually bend and kind of manipulate this metal because it's actually pretty thick and pretty sturdy. Okay guys, so little change of plan here. My bend ended up basically fitting really perfectly underneath the bracket instead of on top of the bracket. So I have it set up like this. If you guys can see what I'm working with here, we're now going to be able to get our bolt back through the factory bracket, through my bracket, and then back into its stock location. So we can see now that we've got our new 4-point harness belt here in the back bolted to the factory location, and the rear seat belt harness is back where it should be also. So now that we've got the back seat bottom back in, we've got our buckles pulled through, we are ready to start on the front. Now, there is only one piece you've got to install, and it is the, again, tab that is going to clip into the bolt that the seatbelt bolts to on the seat frame. The other side, like we talked about, plugs into the factory seatbelt buckle. So another benefit of this is that you don't need to worry about plugging something in, the factory seatbelt, whatever, into the buckle so you don't have a seatbelt light on. This is going to basically have the seatbelt plugged in with the harness. So this tab, I've already kind of got bent into place. Again, I gave it a 90-degree twist here and then leaned it inward a little bit, and I'll be able to show you guys a little bit better once we actually get down to that bolt. Now, getting to the bolt on our seatbelt here, we are going to need to unbolt the seat and at least tip it up a little bit. We don't even have to unplug the darn thing or fully remove it, but we are going to need to unbolt it and kind of tip the seat on its side. And so with our seat slid forward, we have two T50 Torx here at the back that we could just get buzzed out. Now, oddly enough, the Camaro does not have any seat bolts on the seat frame at the very front. It's got just these metal hooks that are kind of hooked forward. So we're going to need to slide the seat backwards a little bit so we're able to get it to unclip. So again, leaving the thing plugged in, we aren't even needing to worry about that. We are just sliding the seat, kind of picking the back of the seat up and just sliding it rearward. Again, picking the back of the seat frame up and sliding it rearward gets those front clips out of their spot. And then, like I said, all we've got to do is just get the seat up. And in this position, we can see our T50 bolt that bolts our seat belt to the seat. Now, I'm going to raise the power seat so we can even see a little bit better here what we're working with. Now, I'm grabbing a couple pieces of wood here just to kind of help block the seat up so you guys can hopefully see what I'm doing a little bit better. So we're going to need to basically feed this buckle through the side seat trim here, and it's going to clip into this tab. Again, the bolt is facing sideways, and it's going to need to clip in to the buckle like this. So I gave this thing, like I said, a 90-degree twist and then leaned it inward towards the seat a little bit so we help kind of clear this side seat trim. So with that, we are ready to again pull our T50 bolt here. Now this bolt will have one of those star washers on the back of it. Again, one of these star washers on the back holding it to our buckle pre-tensioner assembly. Again, get you a little screwdriver, bend some of it up, and then you can actually get a pair of wire cutters and cut and get that bolt retainer off of it. So you've got, again, a teeny bit more threads, and then you're able to remove the bolt so you can actually get the tab for the harness on where we need it to go. So with that, we're able to get our bent tab slid back through. Now keep in mind, this seatbelt buckle, or the end of the seatbelt, does have a metal pin that locates it on the seat frame. So just, I mean, it's hard to mess it up, but just keep in mind there is a certain location that goes into. Now before we get that tight, I'm going to feed my seatbelt harness through my plastic trim. And then, if you guys can see, we are able to clip the harness into our tab, get everything kind of lined up where we think it needs to go, and then we can tighten down our bolt. So now that we've got that tight, we are ready to get this driver's seat set back into place and start bolting it back together. Now that we've got the front clipped in, we're going to, before we put the bolts in, make sure you've got both of the front tabs into place. And again, once you're confident you've got the front seat frame clipped into its location, we're going to throw our two T50 seat frame bolts back in. Now when we lower our seat back down, we're going to kind of need to make sure we get the seat belt brackets all wedged back through the hole in our side seat trim. And guys, like we talked about, the other side of this is just a normal seatbelt buckle that clips in to the factory buckle. And then we've got the two straps that go up and over our seat back. So with our headrest up, we can get those fed through. And here in the back of the car, we are able to take our end that connected to the piece that we bolted in, and then our other end goes from here to our factory seatbelt buckle, again, like we said, in the second row. So when we are all said and done, here is what we are left with. We've got our harness here that is connected to the factory seatbelt buckle. We go over, across, and this is where we duct into that factory trim that goes down to the bolt for our end of our seatbelt, which is the pretensioner bolt here on the seat frame. We are going up and over the seat. Now, I've seen some guys that ran the harness through these two posts to keep them narrow. I think I'm going to plan to run them here on the outside of it just to see. I just hate stuff rubbing on my neck. If this thing is coming over and just cutting into my neck, I am not going to love it. So I'm going to see how it works just leaving it like this on the outside of the two headrest posts, over and back, and then we cross here. And we've got our seat belt buckle here, and then over here, we've got our piece that we bolted to the factory seat belt bolt on the bottom. Well guys, I finally have a harness in this darn thing after way too many years of ownership. And all of this is kind of getting ready for a track day coming up in August at Hallett Raceway. So this will be the first time I've got a harness in the car and actually held into the seat. Like I said, I've previously just been, bending and bowing my legs into the door and into the center console, trying to keep yourself stable as you're sliding around corners. So it's gonna be an absolute game changer having myself strapped into the car. I also have another exciting thing, or at least exciting for me. I found or the guys on the CAMARO Facebook group found a place, a business selling the OEM Goodyear F1 Supercar 3R tires for like really ridiculously dirt cheap. So I was able to get a full set of the factory F1 3R, factory 100 treadwear track tires that this car originally came with. I just autocrossed them off and never got to track it. So it's going to be pretty exciting feeling what the car was supposed to feel like with those factory Goodyears. So yeah, like I said, tires, seatbelt, all kind of planning ahead for the track day in August. So guys, thanks for coming out into the garage with me and finally bolting a real harness into the Camaro. And hopefully next time we see this car, we will be out on track with it in a few weeks in August. So guys, thanks for coming out into the garage again. And guys, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.